This is the main event, Mark's podcast, brought to you by Belly Up Unhinged Radio Network Sports. I'm your first host, lifelong wrestling fan, former radio guy, and cat dad. I am Troy. And with me, as always, is the main event collector and figure hunting warrior. He is the WWE Walking Wrestling Encyclopedia and the Booker T to my gold dust. It's Greg. What's up, Greg?
Two-time Hall of Famer. I'll take it.
Yeah, and gold dust will be in there one day, I can only assume. There's no way they can keep
the clock on when he's coming home is starting to do, trust me.
Yeah.
I think he's...
Yeah, I can totally see him, like, stepping out of AEW. Like, when he's ready to quit wrestling, he'll step out of the ring, he'll do his training on the side, whatever, and then he'll sign a Legends deal with WWE. Like, that's normally how it goes nowadays.
He doesn't quit anytime soon because he's one of their better guys, so...
Yeah,
Which sounds weird saying about a 50-year-old man, but nope, he's better than most.
Right. And like somebody we're going to talk about today, Ric Flair, he was in his 50s here, and he was still going at a very high level.
I might argue he's about to get even better after this.
Yeah. So, I mean, he wasn't going to put on, some 60-minute classic with Ricky Steamboat again, but he was putting on phenomenal matches at this time. Now in the archives, if anybody goes back and listens to our review of WrestleMania X8 that we did a couple of months ago, just great work he did with the Undertaker. Say what?
So then why haven't you listened to it back?
Yeah, right. Yeah, all of our WrestleMania shows, we always do it big, do it special. And that one was awesome. I've always loved WrestleMania X8. And Ric Flair took on the Undertaker on that show, and, well, they tore the house down. So it was a whole show of, mediocre to great matches. And Ric Flair was one of them, putting on great matches at that time. So
it's funny too. He's great and all, don't get me wrong, but have you ever really said Undertaker tore the house down?
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's not. I mean, obviously he's amazing, but like he's not that kind of, like when I think of that, I think of Daniel Bryan and people like that, Kurt Angle, the Canadian whose name we won't mention. That's like tearing the house down.
Right.
Undertaker was a different kind of wrestler.
Not sure if this is unpopular opinion or not, but I feel the Undertaker did some of his best in-ring work during this time.
I would say the same thing. You have to focus on being the dead man. You can just be the badass.
Right. Yeah.
So,
and
I would agree.
He did some things here that you would never see him when he was the dead man. He would have never done that.
It's funny because I just said, have you ever said him tearing the house down? Maybe that's why he was different.
Yeah.
Maybe I have to retract what I said.
And he put on some really good matches with certain people as the dead man, but it was in the dead man style. And here he just kind of let loose. The character was very different. Just the way the main event ends here. We'll get into it. But for anybody that doesn't know, we have officially got 104 regular weekly shows out there all together. By the time this is all said and done, we've got...
I thought you were going to say followers.
Oh, yeah. Well, we have more than that. But
I meant like regular listeners.
Oh, right. Yeah, I hear you. But altogether, we have, with the bonus shows, we have almost 130 episodes in the can. So go check them out. Tons of listening, and it's all evergreen content. So that's the whole reason behind this, is you can pick it up whenever, any episode, and not be lost, not hear dated information, because it's all dated.
Actually, you are hearing dated information, but...
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's all dated. Therefore, it's all evergreen. So it's not new when we drop it. So, yeah. But anyway, there's a lot of news and notes to get to. This is the first show in our 2-year anniversary month. And in honor of that, we're covering the King of the Ring yet again, because our very first episode ever was King of the Ring 1998, which, by the way, the way it uploaded on YouTube, if anybody follows us on YouTube, first of all, thank you. But the way it uploaded originally, because the way the account was set up, is it uploaded in pieces. So you have to click on multiple videos to get the whole episode, and it was a still picture and whatever. Well, I changed that, and I'm re-uploading it on our anniversary, June 10th. So check out that on our, coming up here real soon on our anniversary, which is when the first episode dropped 2 years ago. So check that out.
Anything special happened on that show?
Yeah, well, maybe something involving the Undertaker, who we were just talking about. But I don't know. Yeah, you guys will have to go back and check it out, and then watch the show.
Yeah, man, the Undertaker's on every show, dude.
Right.
Shoving them down our throats.
Yeah. Yeah, man, they're just forcing the Undertaker upon us, man. How dare they? Screw them. But anyway, so we got a ton, and I mean a ton of news and notes to get into. So time out here real quick to let you know that the Main Event Marks is sponsored by Swift Lifestyles. They are clean energy drinks and focus enhancers, great tasting vitamins, and big brain nootropics that are made and shipped from the USA. Go to swiftlifestyles.com and use our special promo code Main Event Marks, all one word, to get 15% off your order. It's Main Event Marks, all one word, to get 15% off your order at checkout. And now we're going to take our first break. When we come back on the other side of this, we're going to talk about the news and notes from this time in 2002, right after this. Follow the Main Event Marks at facebook.com/Main Event Marks Pod, on Twitter at Main Event_Marks, and on Instagram at Main Event_Marks and at Main Event Collector. Get ready to rumble in your new Main Event Marks merchandise. We've got t-shirts, hoodies, masks, hats, stickers, pins, and much more on our Redbubble store. That's maineventmarks.redbubble.com. You can also pick up some awesome clothing items with the latest updated show graphics on our Bonfire store. That's bonfire.com/store/main event marks. Support your favorite retro wrestling podcast and pick up some cool swag on our Bonfire and Redbubble stores. That's maineventmarks.redbubble.com and bonfire.com/store/main event marks.
Hey gang, it's Commissioner Cooper of TSS Fantasy. We are the fantasy show of the people. Expert fantasy advice, free contests, leading expert medical and legal analysis, and most importantly, you. Interact with us on all social media platforms or check us out at tssfantasy.com. You can hear us on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and many more. Check out the fun today and be a part of the most interactive fantasy show around. TSS Fantasy, the fantasy show of the people.
The Main Event Marks are available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Find all of our links on our link tree at linktr.ee/Main Event Marks. And we're back. Real quick, we want to let you know that the Main Event Marks is sponsored by Shocked Energy. Shocked Energy is a healthier alternative to traditional energy drinks that gives the energy that gamers need while in a long session without skimping on their health. Their products come in a powder form and you mix them into water. You can either choose from green apple or watermelon. You can also try both if you get their sample kit. Use our special link that is down in the podcast description, or you can simply go to shockedenergy.com at checkout. Use the promo code MAINEVENT, all one word, to save 10% on your order. That's promo code MAINEVENT, and you're going to save 10% at checkout. Anybody who watched wrestling during this time period can kind of figure out some of the top stories we're going to be covering here.
I don't have a can of crack this week, by the way. I'm just drinking water, so.
Screw you for staying healthy. Drinking water. Filthy stuff. Fish F in it. Anyway.
Nature's fruit juice, right? Is what they call it?
Something like that. But yeah, and this isn't normally, you know, if there's a big story, sometimes we can be like, well, if you didn't read the dirt sheets and whatever, you wouldn't have known about it. You didn't have to read the dirt sheets to know about this during this time because it was on WWE TV that they
There are
talked
three
about
things
it.
you don't need to read the dirt sheets for, I'm assuming, but let's go.
Right. But this first one, Stone Cold Steve Austin walked out on WWE last week, and the story took a darker turn this week when Austin was accused of allegedly beating his wife, Deborah. Austin had become paranoid and distrustful of the locker room, particularly when the NWO guys were brought in. He refused to work with Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania and wasn't happy about working with Scott Hall either. He insisted on decisively winning their match and blowing off their feud. He went home after WrestleMania, no-showing Raw the next night after, and things seemed to be patched up soon after. But when he came back, he still wasn't happy and spoke out publicly against the brand extension and the overall creative direction of the company. A lot of people in the locker room supported Austin, feeling that he was completely justified in his complaints because everyone realizes the wheels are falling off the company lately. Pause. The wheels are falling off the company?
Oh, man, that's great.
They're the only game in town. And we're going to talk here in a bit about, I think they sold the show out. Yeah, it's funny we're talking about this right now when somebody else walked out recently in WWE, snapping back to 2022 here.
Full disclosure, we record a little early, so it's kind of recent, but yeah.
Yeah, right. So it might be cleared up by the time where, this actually posts. But if you believe anything, I tend to take anything from the dirt sheet people with a grain of salt. But
I don't read it, so that helps me a lot.
Yeah. Well, according to some people, there's like no support for Sasha Banks within WWE. Like everybody feels like she's a diva and she's a mark and all this other stuff. Like I said,
she's done this now twice in 3 years.
Yeah, right. So and I like, people are instantly going to the R word, man. It's racism because, they dropped that statement about it. And they cite, well, they didn't do this to Jeff Hardy and Tony Storm and whatever. It's like Jeff Hardy had to pay some penance, man. And does anybody remember when Stone Cold walked out and they had a public bashing campaign of him for like months?
And Austin admitted on his podcast with Vince McMahon on there that they fined him $250,000, I think.
Right. And the other one they cite is, well, they didn't, there wasn't public denouncing of CM Punk. It's like the company crapped on him too. So what are you talking about? Like people are just looking for any little reason they want, because Sasha has some weird fans, man. I found that out.
Who's the Raw Women's Champion right now?
I see what you're getting at. It is a black woman.
Yeah, they're real racist.
Of course, yeah. Bobby Lashley's a 2-time WWE champion. He's, and Greg, Roman Reigns is white. I don't know if you knew this. Yeah,
but yeah, arguably the face of all of wrestling as a whole. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
I also just I laugh at it too. I'm like, you do it twice. What do you think you are? You're not like Cena or Hogan. You can't just walk back in. Whatever. That's our meal ticket.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but Sasha Banks is a bigger name, whatever. But last time she walked out, they were just fine. This time when she walks out, they'll be just fine. If they went ahead and canned her for doing this, they'll be just fine. Again, she's, like you said, she's not Cena, she's not Austin, she's not Roman. Good Lord. But yeah, back to 2002 here. The Sunday night before Raw last week, Austin was told by Jim Ross that the plan was for him to face Brock Lesnar with the idea that Eddie Guerrero would cost him the match. Austin pointed out the obvious, that him versus Lesnar is a big money match and should be built up for months on paper. I assume they put on pay-per-view. I assume they mean to pay-per-view. Lesnar should go through the whole locker room.
Premium live event, but yeah.
Not back then. We have to make that distinction. So Lesnar should go through the whole locker room before he gets to Austin last, not first, on free TV with no build-up. Austin hated the idea and said that he wasn't coming if that was the plan. Ross told Vince, who called Austin and left a voicemail. He told Austin to call him back no matter what time. Austin did call back at 2 a.m., and they discussed the plan. According to Vince, Austin had reluctantly agreed to it. Austin evidently felt otherwise because he showed up to Raw that next day, found out about the Lesnar match still being booked, and decided, screw that, got on a plane, and went home with Deborah.
Yep, I was at the Raw the next week after this.
So you were at the public bashing fest for Stone Cold?
It wasn't really a public bashing. Vince came out and thanked him and put a beer can in the ring. So I'm trying to figure out where that public bashing part is coming from. That's a weird narrative because I don't remember that.
Wasn't there that? Well, I guess it was The Rock's promo and little comments here and there because The Rock did basically. He didn't call him out by name.
Yeah, no, he did. He did. He said Austin could take his. He could say Austin could take his ball and go home. He did say that.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Okay. That is correct. I forgot. Yeah. Well, either way, Raw that night was mostly built around the angle where Ric Flair would have to be Steve Austin's personal assistant if he lost their match last week, because much of the show was written around that. They had to rewrite the whole show at the last minute in a panic. That abruptly turned Flair babyface again and ended the huge dual ownership angle with no build-up. Meanwhile, Austin was ignoring all phone calls until he finally answered one from Jim Ross, who told Austin he was being unprofessional and had to come try and talk it out with Vince. Austin refused, saying he refused to work with McMahon anymore, and hung up. Yeah. So
that's kind of wild, man.
I know, it's weird.
Considering in a couple months it all will be under the bridge.
And I know Austin has since come out and said it's like, yeah, it's he had a lot of it was burnout and a bunch of other personal mental issues. Basically, if anybody hears that, I'm not saying he was crazy or something. I think he was like mentally burnt out because he'd been burning the candle at both ends for years as the top guy. So I'm not making excuses, just saying he had a lot going on at the time. His marriage was somewhat rocky. So, and he said he was upset. Right. Yeah, we'll get to that. And he said he hadn't seen his kids in forever, and that was getting to him. So,
yeah, count your blessings on that one, dude. Anyways.
Wow, that's effed up. But
it's a joke.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know how people on the internet. Well, actually, I will never have kids because I will be a virgin until the day I die. However, I find your comments abhorrent.
You know what's funny? Real question: does Dave also have kids?
He has a few. I know he said he at least has one son and one daughter. But yeah, Austin said that the two things he regrets most in his career are the ending of WrestleMania 17 and this right here. I don't blame him. And then he ended up losing 6 months of his career by sitting at home and getting
pretty much, and then come back in February and then be gone forever in April.
Forever, bro.
Well, forever.
Right.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, I know. Freaking sucks. Vince McMahon and Jim Ross taped interviews for this week's episode of WWE Confidential, in which they completely buried Steve Austin, with Vince vowing to never bring him back.
They did not bury him, nor did he say that.
on Confidential?
Yeah.
I don't remember the episodes. I'd have to go back and... Is that even up on Peacock?
It is, yeah, the whole series is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd have to go back and watch the episode.
They don't talk about it in a glowing light, but the word burial is just a little too thick.
Jim Ross, in particular, dumped a lot of dirt on Austin's grave here. Austin saved Jim Ross's announcing career by insisting that JR be brought back for his WrestleMania 15 match with The Rock. At the time, Ross was still suffering from Bell's palsy, and Vince had no intention of ever bringing him back, but Austin insisted, and the crowd reaction led to Ross being brought back permanently. So, for Ross to be burying his good friend like this seems a bit wrong. For what it's worth, it rubbed JR the wrong way, too. He's gone on record a million times since then, saying that he wished he hadn't done it, and he's apologized to Austin profusely for it. Ross talked openly about some of Austin's personal business, like his previous divorce, or when his kids went to live in England, and hinted that Austin's issues were more than just professional burnout. At the time this was being filmed, nobody knew just how true that was, as I alluded to earlier. But yeah. Man, this was never a good... This was a weird situation right here, man. And now getting into the more...
Luckily, they were in a position where they didn't lose, like, the flag bearer, Austin.
Yeah, right. This wasn't during the Monday Night Wars when they were like,
yeah, right.
Oh, man, we need the captain of the ship here. I mean, they had... they kind of broke glass, for The Rock in case of emergency, but still, yeah, they had the Undertaker on top. They had Triple H on top. They had... Every other company was closed down. Well, any other
Hogan was still wildly popular.
Down. Yeah, Hogan was wrestling. Yeah, Flair was wrestling. I mean, they were fine. They didn't, and they had. It wasn't like the biggest thing, but they had the NWO at this time. So,
I don't want to forget guys like Kurt Angle, by the way.
Yeah, Kurt Angle, the Radicals. So Benoit wasn't. I guess he wasn't wrestling at this time. He had his neck issues going on, but. Still, he was there.
2002. He's about to come back. He's not back. Yeah. He's about to.
Right. Yeah. Because the only reason I remember that was because Ross mentioned it on the show. Actually, when we see him, he's like, "Oh, he's recovering from neck surgery." Like, oh, I assume this was his first neck surgery. Because I remember when he took almost. What did he take, a year off for his second neck surgery?
This is the second one. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I could have swore there was another time where he was out forever, and then he came back as a big baby face and.
That's this one right here.
Oh. Okay. Well, then I'm getting time.
And then he turns heel, and then he becomes face again. He was all over the map.
Right. Well, getting into the more serious stuff, oddly enough, here, the night before WWE Confidential aired at 4 a.m.
That's not a joke, because that was not really that serious. So.
Right. Yeah. This was more than just walking out of his job.
But there's nothing serious about that.
Yeah. But the night before WWE Confidential aired at 4 a.m., Steve Austin's wife, Deborah, called 911 to their home in San Antonio, Texas, claiming that Austin had attacked her. Austin drove away in his yellow Corvette before police arrived. it's hard to picture Steve Austin driving a yellow Corvette, but here we are.
Cool. I was going to say it, but I'm glad you did. Can we pause and talk about he's driving a Corvette now to pick up stuff?
Right.
Okay.
When the police showed up, they found Deborah crying with a large welt on her face. She said that Austin had hit her several times after an argument and then left when she made the 911 call. She said that she was worried about the call because of how famous Austin is and knowing word would get out. She also showed them several marks on her back where she said that Austin had hit her. Austin called the house twice while police were there and they spoke to him and advised him to come home. Austin was cordial to the officers on the phone, but refused to come back to the home while they were there. Deborah declined to press charges, and because she refused to seek medical attention under Texas law, the police pretty much consider it a dead issue unless she changes her mind. Austin later returned home after they left. The national news media didn't pick up on it until Monday, at which point it became a huge story. They even had a news helicopter following Austin driving around town with an open beer in his Corvette. God. And filmed him talking with his neighbors in the yard, and also showed him flipping off the news cameras. Because Austin is a wrestler, the media treated this very serious issue as if it were almost a joke.
Naturally.
Yeah, of course. Oh, well, he play fights, so, this guy, even though he beat his wife, God, so effing stupid.
I wish it was part of the show, I'll say that.
Right, yeah. Well, I like how it's just like they turn their nose up to they're so far above this professional wrestling.
Chris Jericho always said it's been the redhead stepchild of anything entertainment, so.
Yeah, it's like, good Lord. The Marvel movies are fake too, but if insert Marvel star here was caught beating their spouse, they wouldn't treat it like,
he should have been DC with Ezra Miller. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah. Well, that one, they're not blowing that one off. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know how to respond to this crap. And it gets worse with the news stories, by the way. Speaking of which, the local Fox station in Los Angeles, like everyone else, covered the Austin Deborah story on the Good Morning LA morning newscast. The story was presented as a big joke, even using the headline, "Smackdown at Home." One of the anchors, Jillian Barbary, refused to play along, presenting the story as a serious issue that it is. Then afterwards, she criticized...
That's because she's an actual professional.
Right.
She was on the Fox pregame show for NFL for years, so...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you named the one professional in the show.
Right. Well, I respect her more after this. It's like, yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about don't call your employers out on the air, but... It said afterwards, she criticized the station's writing team live on air, calling them low class for making light of a woman being beaten by her husband. I do not disagree. It's just so stupid. It's like, I don't care what they do for a living. Austin is like 3 times Deborah's size. And I mean, that's not even the point. Wow. And it's like the size thing isn't even the issue. It's the fact that, just beating your spouse in general is never okay and is a serious issue. But it's like, oh, well, it involves 2 wrestlers. So, haha, it's a joke. SmackDown at Home.
I get it.
Yeah. It's like, dude, you're Good Morning LA. Like, what else are you going to cover? More drug overdoses?
I just want to point out, I don't know if anyone ever watched that show, The Soup with Joel McHale, but he had like a weekly segment where he bashed stupid coverage of stuff. I'm not even joking.
Nice. Yeah, I'm sure he had his pick of the litter with that.
He did.
Man.
Man. Anyone ever gets bored, you ever have nothing to do, put in Joe McHale, KTLA. There's a bunch of good stuff on there.
I can imagine. Well, with Steve Austin being all over the news that day, this led to an unannounced surprise return of The Rock on Raw. This after they spent... Lucky you.
Can I just tell you real quick, by the way, that is it's still the loudest ovation I've ever heard in my life. I've been to Warriors playoff games in that building. And it was nothing like that. My ears were piercing. They were ringing so damn loud. We did not know he was going to be there. It was 100% a surprise.
Well, kind of like, and I mean, I didn't read the dirt sheet, so I don't know if this was reported in the dirts or not, but it seemed like it wasn't. When he showed up before WrestleMania 27, the freaking crowd exploded, man. Like, I thought the roof was going to cave in.
I'm going to say the one in Brooklyn as well when he returned against Rusev.
Oh, man. Yeah.
That was crazy loud. Even Michael Cole, like when he was on some show, it said he didn't even know he was going to be there. Nobody did.
Well, it's one of them. Like he's reached that status. Like Eric Bischoff always talked about that with Ric Flair, where he said he reached a certain status where he's like he could walk to the ring, lighting puppies on fire and stomping them out, and they'd still cheer the hell out of him. It's like I want to say that's there are certain people that have reached out and said Sting. Nobody's going to boo Sting. Nobody's going to boo The Rock. So obviously, I think The Rock is, well, it's not even debatable. The Rock as a superstar as a whole, I mean, a real superstar. He's bigger than Sting and Ric Flair combined. But yeah, either way, getting back to the story here, this after they spent the whole show teasing that Austin would show up. The Rock wasn't scheduled to return.
Oh, no, they didn't. They kept saying he's here. No one ever said Austin.
Well, actually,
again, false reporting yet again, but whatever. Right.
Well, you know who I'm reading. The Rock wasn't scheduled to return until next month to build up for a match at SummerSlam, but knowing the company was in a tough situation, The Rock agreed to come back early. The plan appears to be for The Rock to challenge for the WWE title at Fully Loaded next month. Did that happen? I didn't look ahead.
It did, but it was not Fully Loaded. It was Vengeance.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't remember.
Unless they changed it on the fly.
Yeah. There's also been talk about The Rock winning the title and then dropping it to Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. That's exactly what happens. The Rock's return, since it came as a complete surprise, was a flop in the ratings. If they had built it up just 1 week, they could have made some money on it, but not building up anything seems to be the MO for WWE these days.
I want to say this was against the NBA Finals, though, to be fair.
Yeah, I would assume during this time period, probably. Yeah. Between the Shawn Michaels return, the Ric Flair, Vince McMahon blow-off, and now that's 3 Raws in a row where they gave away major moments that could/should have been built up for bigger ratings or pay-per-view money. That's not enough.
No other game in town. Why do you need to build up pay-per-views?
Yeah, and with The Rock back, that might, sure, you don't cash in on his return, but you get a big surprise. Also, and people tune in next week.
What's not being said in here is he's not a Raw guy either. He returns to Raw, but he's a SmackDown guy. And he's only on SmackDown. He's on Raw when he's a champion, though. So,
yeah, that's actually, I'll get to that here in a second. But that's not even getting into the smaller right here, getting into the smaller details, such as the fact that The Rock is a SmackDown guy. So why the hell is he returning to Raw anyway? But again, the wheels are totally off the WWE train here in 2002. It's clear to see in retrospect how WWE was falling from their peak, and Vince was desperately clawing at any idea he could to think of to stop the bleeding.
Oh my God.
Stop the bleeding?
What the hell are you watching, dude? Good Lord.
Yeah, everything fell from its peak, but that was naturally going to happen. It wasn't anything that the WWE did or wasn't doing that led to that. Like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, I think that there were some people that they just tuned out when WCW went out of business. It didn't matter if the WWE had the greatest wrestling show in the history of existence. They didn't want it because they were WCW diehards for whatever freaking reason. So,
oh, now hold on. They said it was good in its heyday, so there was a reason to be a diehard. Now, if you mean for whatever freaking reason going off the last year, right. Yes, I agree with you on that.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. But the wheels are falling off. In what way? Because they were doing big business.
Is he pointing any financials at all? Has he even quoted that yet?
He hasn't mentioned anything of financial wise.
Well, then how would you know the wheels are falling off?
That's my copy or my question about that. It's like, whoa, what are you talking about? Like, in what way is it falling off? Are you talking creatively? Because I think they were doing great business creatively here too.
Admittedly, I'm a huge WWE mark, you know that. But what are they supposed to do? Yeah, if they got to do things on the fly, what are they supposed to do?
You can make the argument that
here's my backup draft for just in case randomly. Oh, I don't know, Austin walks out. This is the backup draft because you always have one of those.
Well, and the other thing is that was getting me is like you can definitely make the argument about certain things that happen where it's like, oh, they could have done that better, but it's Monday morning quarterbacking. Well, so at the end of the day, I don't know. It's just stupid.
What's Bischoff always say? Hindsight's always 20/20.
Right.
Always. Yep. It's like Father Time. It's undefeated. It's always 20/20. So,
yeah. Right. But last thing here about Austin and Deborah here. But even after the story broke about Steve Austin and Deborah, Vince McMahon went on Raw and changed his tune, saying that he hoped Austin would someday come back to the WWE, but time would tell. For now, he's gone. The Rock came out on Raw, gave a big rah-rah speech, to which he also pretty much buried Austin for, quote, taking his ball and going home, end quote.
Okay, yes, he did do that.
And he did the whole get the F out tagline. Yeah, out of everybody, I think he drove that home most.
That was a cheap plug, but you can't fault him for it.
Oh, no. I mean, it's promotion, and that was their thing at the time. I remember this whole campaign. As a kid who grew up on WWF, I was honestly like... I had a very bad reaction to it. I was like, I hate this. I absolutely hate it. Obviously, it's like now as an adult, I'm like, who cares? But,
I always said that, a Panda did what Ted Turner and Gagne and all that couldn't do.
Right.
Beat Vince McMahon.
Well, and the thing is, they had to have the trial over in the UK.
Yeah,
they
which is BS.
They couldn't even do it here in America. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I guess the argument could be, though, the home court advantage for WWE here, so guess you got to call that a wash.
Right. Well, speaking of The Rock, his next movie, Hell Dorado, is expected to film between September until around Christmas. WWE is hopeful that The Rock can make some sporadic appearances on TV those months in between filming dates, but that's going to be difficult to pull off. Indeed, he never shows up during that time. The name of the movie was also changed to The Rundown.
It's a really good one. You guys should watch it.
Yeah, it's not one of them that's like, oh my gosh, it's a classic or anything like that, but it was a fun movie.
Got Stifler from American Pie in it, and Chino from Ninja Turtles 2.
And
Christopher
Walken plays the villain.
That's right, he's in that. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he's the main baddie.
Maybe I need to go back and watch it. I haven't watched it in a while. And dude, he does it on bottom with some idiot through a table. Come on, that's badass.
My favorite part is when he eats that thing that has poison in it, and he passes out and he wakes up. He's like he's half paralyzed, and he's like yelling at monkeys to leave him alone.
Isn't Rosario Dawson in that too?
I'm gonna say yes. I think she was.
She's all the way alive.
You're not kidding. But yeah, this like I said, it was a pretty good movie. It's the first movie I remember. Well, okay, I forgot about the Mummy Returns and all that, but
everyone did.
It was one of his first starring roles, and it was when you can see that The Rock can, do stuff outside of the ring pretty damn well. Moving on here, you and I were literally just talking about this. It's official now. The World Wrestling Federation is dead. WWE lost its final appeal in the UK's highest court in their battle against the World Wildlife Fund. Vince McMahon had already thrown in the towel, and the company had already been renamed to WWE, but the final appeal had never been dropped. It was still going through the system. In the highly unlikely event that they somehow won the case, they planned to revert back to the WWF initials, but of course they didn't win. Just like every single lower court before them, the court handed the wrestling company its final defeat, so the WWF is dead and the WWE lives.
And it would take 12 years to be able to say WWF on TV.
Yeah, it's weird. And they still, if anybody goes back and watches certain things on Peacock, they'll still blank that out.
They don't still do it. The thing is, they just got lazy and just transferred those over. They didn't transfer the masters.
Right.
I've noticed that. So that has to be it.
Yeah.
They got lazy and just uploaded the already edited stuff.
So. Yeah, that makes sense. I know
because there's events where they clearly say it. So
I haven't noticed this, but I don't know if they still do it or not. But there for a while they were blurring out WWF logos too, but only in certain videos.
Yeah, I don't know why they do it on the video game. If you play 2K in the recap videos and whatever, they do blur out the WWF logos.
Really?
Huh. Yeah.
That's
on. It's funny. Right after NXT last night, a few weeks ago, whatever. Miz TV was on, and I saw Cardona on there, and I'm a huge fan of them, and I watched that episode. And the whole episode revolved around Miz getting Cardona this Kamala Hasbro figure. And if you remember the Hasbro figures, in the upper left-hand corner, the old block WWF logo from like the 80s, early 90s, was right there. And they blurred that out on the toy on the show.
Huh.
So
Weird.
It's not just the Attitude logo, it's all of them.
Yeah, right.
And why are they doing it on their show that they produce? Is my question.
Yeah. That one I don't get, man. I don't know.
There's got to. I mean,
yeah. I don't understand copyright law. I'm not a lawyer. I just pretend to be one on the podcast. But
oh, really? I pretend to be a doctor on here, so it looks like I'm making more than you. Haha.
Wow. Now you're only a chiropractor, okay? Not a real doctor.
Nah, it's masseuse with a happy ending. That's all it is.
Okay. Good Lord. But anyway, Rey Mysterio made his
one of the best shows ever.
Rey Mysterio made his WWE debut at a house show in San Diego, beating Chavo Guerrero. Mysterio was wearing his mask again and was said to be more impressive than anyone else on the show. Mysterio also looked substantially bigger than he did in WCW because, well, he's coming to WWE, and you know how that goes. I mean,
he looked better on not physical. Well, I don't know, whatever. That's subject to opinion, but wrestling skill, he looked better than ever when he debuted.
Oh yeah, that
was insane.
He was working at a high level. Just
that dude is timeless.
Yep. Yeah, he's still freaking going. He's nuts. And he's been wrestling since he was, 14?
You know it's telling when you're still going and you're teaming with your son.
Right.
What does that tell you? Like, on his age, I mean.
No, I know. And he's still, like, you look at him and you're like, you have a son that's this age? Like, what the hell, man? It's nuts.
Yep, he's right there with, like, Billy Gunn and Dustin. Kazarian Daniels. Right. He just forgot to age.
I guess the whole thing about him bulking up, I guess, was people had talked about that before, where they said, "Oh yeah, he for sure like bulked way up because he didn't want to. He didn't think he'd get over as a skinny little Rey Mysterio that he was in WCW." So,
he might have a point. I mean, they didn't have very much looking like him, anyways.
Right, and he did bulk weight. I mean, if you look at him in WCW and then him when he pops up in WWE, it's like, damn, bro, you've been hitting that gym hard. Like, what do you have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Nothing but pure protein.
Wow.
But at the latest WWE tapings in Atlanta, Dusty Rhodes was backstage visiting and introducing his 16-year-old son, Cody Runnels, to everyone. Cody's been training with his father to be a wrestler.
Well, that's gonna work out.
Yeah, right. I wonder if this will turn into an American nightmare, if you will. No.
I would have said just nightmare. I mean, it would have been false, but like, you know, tongue in cheek funny.
I want to specify it's not a Canadian nightmare. Those are different. That's when you run out of syrup.
Good Lord! Now who's going to hell?
Oh no!
Well, what do you mean hockey has a lockout? What? I'm gonna go hang myself. All right, I'm done. I'm done.
I can't find my best toque. All right. Anyway, moving on.
Keep it moving here.
Somebody else here, though, a rookie named Trevor Rhodes, who is trained by Harley Race, will be working the upcoming tour for Pro Wrestling Noah. This would be future WWE and NWA star Trevor Murdoch.
Future NWA champion Trevor Murdoch, or whatever his name is in NWA.
Yeah, it's still Trevor Murdoch, but yeah, it still blows me away to say that. And they say that he's
not bad. I want to point that out. I don't know I'm hearing this thing of crap. He's not bad at all. It's just champion. I mean, I guess.
And the whole reason
I'm not the book last name going to be one on the podcast. That's two.
Wow.
Okay.
Right. Well, they said the whole reason that his name was Trevor Murdoch was they said he bore a striking resemblance to Dick Murdoch. Which
yeah, well, yeah. What do you mean bore? You mean bears?
Yeah, right. Yeah, if there's somebody you want to be compared to, as you and I talk about, it's definitely Dick Murdoch.
Oh, good Lord, I forgot that. Oh man.
The name Dick has never been so fitting. But anyway, and I know people will say, well, he's dead. Yeah, but he was a KKK member. I think it's okay to crap on him when he's dead.
Yeah. I'd rather just not talk about him. I mean, for the purpose of this, we have to, obviously. But yeah.
Right.
I'd rather not talk about people like that, period, ever. It's you know.
Yeah.
I mean, take your pick. Is it because they're racist? Because they're against, like, basically, not in their mind, but they are against God? I mean, take your pick. Why do you not want to talk about them?
Yeah. Right. Well, because they dress stupid. That hood, like, that's too much. All right. Anyway, moving on here. Going over to Japan for this one here. Motoko Baba officially announced that she will be retiring as All Japan Pro Wrestling president at the end of September. It's expected that Keiji Muto will take over the role, which has been heavily rumored ever since he jumped ship from New Japan. I think he does.
Anyone doesn't know, that is the greatest Japanese wrestler in history.
He's definitely my favorite. Yes, I always held him in. He was like the first Japanese wrestler that I ever was like, oh my gosh, he's so freaking cool.
I hated him when I was a kid because, you know, he always fought Sting and people like that. But,
right.
You know, I hate him because I was supposed to hate him, to be fair.
Yeah, the evil Gary Hart behind him. Yeah.
Such an underrated manager, by the way. People talking about great managers, they forget him. It's a crime.
Right. I think Jim Ross was talking about, you know, we were just talking about racists, and he said, he's like, well, when Keiji Muto, aka Great Muta, when he comes into the building, he's dressed really nice. Like he wore like expensive suits, and he had his face obviously was not painted, and his hair was done. Whatever. He's like, he turned heads with all the women in the office. Like he was a good looking dude. He's like, we could have marketed him, but if he said whenever anybody mentioned or suggested, oh, maybe we should put the belt on Muta, they everybody just was like, what, a Japanese guy? Like we couldn't ever do that.
They did.
Yeah, well, and he's like, well, it wasn't even just a combo. It was a combo because it wasn't just to put the belt on him. It was put the belt on him and make him a baby face because he was like, well, we were lacking in top baby faces.
That never happened.
Yeah, and they were like, well, perish the thought. He has to be evil because he's Japanese. He said that was the entire logic behind it. Well, he's Japanese, therefore he's a heel. And he said,
I mean, in that respect, you can't fault Tony Khan for that latest commercial he does when he says that Asian people are presented as heels. Like, okay, he's got a point there. In the 90s, yeah, but I mean, in the last Asuka has been hugely cheered and has been mostly a babyface ever since she came to WWE. She was a heel and they didn't work.
Right, nobody booed her. Io Shirai is kind of she's been a heel, but people didn't really boo her. Yeah,
that's another one that didn't work because she turned bad and it just didn't happen.
Who's gonna boo her? She's exciting to watch. Like, good lord.
Well, I'll say.
Wow. And that new one, what's her name? Sarai or Sarai?
Yeah.
Sarai, yeah. Like, is she a baby face? Like, yeah.
She is, but
okay.
She's a clear face because she does the whole it sounds like a Russo fetish, but almost like the schoolgirl Japanese thing, and then she loves anime and stuff, and it's like she's like I don't mean this in a negative way, like almost like a teenager. It's like, why would you boo a teenager? You know what I mean? In that respect.
I haven't seen a whole lot of her, but from what I have seen, the only thing I can get out of it is, okay, her whole gimmick is that she's a manga character.
Pretty much, yeah. Because now I didn't realize it, or they're just doing it, one of the two. But last week they were coming out, and she was wearing her schoolgirl outfit, right? The camera cuts within a split second. She's wearing her ring gear. So
holy cow!
Yeah, if they've been doing that, I missed it.
Dude,
saw it now.
I'd laugh my ass off if she referred to somebody as senpai.
What the hell's that?
Basically like master or something like that. It's like it's always the joke of like, oh, the Japanese schoolgirl, and it's like, oh, whatever you say, senpai.
Wow, I would have thought it was like a martial arts thing, like sensei. That would have been my first guess.
Yeah, no, different direction. This is more, them websites on the internet where you have to prove that you're 18 in order to view them.
And you know this. Okay, anyways.
Hey, look, I know a lot of things, okay?
It's funny, my nerdism ends around anime. I never really watch anime. Well, Star Wars, Marvel, DC.
That's one of those insults you throw out at the weebs. Yeah, you know what a weeb is? I hope you do.
I've heard of it, yes.
Okay, for anybody out there that doesn't know, I mean, you can throw it in your Google machine. Basically, it's like a huge fan of anime that's an American. That's like how for wrestling fans, it's you're a mark, and for American anime fans, you're a weeb.
Oh, then I have like 12 friends who are weebs.
I know one.
Yeah. I don't. Is that a term of endearment? If I call them that, am I going to get slapped?
I mean, it's like, I don't know. I think it has the same connotation as calling a wrestling fan a mark. So,
as a wrestling fan, I don't give a damn when someone says that.
Yeah,
so.
That's why everybody says that Kenny Omega's like the biggest freaking weeb out there. They're not wrong.
Yeah, I would say.
Right.
His gear, his music's badass. By the way, people don't know that's from Mega Man. Yeah, his music, his gear, everything he posts online.
The way he used to talk in New Japan was like a villain in an anime. Like, it was effing weird, but yeah. Staying in Japan, though, New Japan Pro Wrestling held its annual stockholder meeting with Antonio Inoki, and Antonio Inoki couldn't even be bothered to attend. Not a good sign. Masa Chono and Tatsuya Kawamura were named.
Masa, my hero, Chono.
Yeah. They were named to the board of directors to replace Riki Choshu. Speaking of which, Choshu was also there and sold all of his stock in the company and left without speaking to reporters. Good
for him. They're all scum anyways.
Here, hey, I'm only here so I don't get fired. Well, he sold all of his stock, so he didn't have to talk to him. And
I'm only here to say F you, bye.
Basically. This next story.
I met him, by the way.
You met who?
Choshu.
Oh,
like really? Just like a random thing at the Cow Palace back in the day.
You met Ricky freaking Choshu? Really?
Yeah, he was there, yeah.
Wow. I didn't know he wrestled in America ever.
I don't think he wrestled that night. He was just there.
Okay.
Unless he did, I'm forgetting. But I do remember meeting him because my buddy was like geeking over it. You know who that is? Because he's a hardcore New Japan fan. And I didn't know this guy was a thing.
Okay. I guess he's pretty much a god over in Japan. He's like one of the elites over there. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't think he wrestles here in America ever. So typical American wrestling fans are like, who?
I did.
Right. This next story is wrestling based because of who's in it, but man, one of the few times I've read a story about this guy, and I actually feel really bad for him about this. In a radio interview.
Oh man, I can't wait for this. If it's not Joey Snell, I'm shocked.
Right. In a radio interview, Jesse Ventura announced that he will not be running for a second term as Minnesota's governor. Ventura didn't go into all of the reasons why, but he did acknowledge a recent controversy as playing a part. There's been news stories this week noting that Ventura's 22-year-old son used the governor's mansion for a late-night weekend party a while back. Cleaning crew members of the mansion went public, saying that when the parents are gone, the kid basically throws wild parties that they have to clean up after. Ventura shot back, basically claiming that his son is being slandered and denied it, and said that the attacks on his family made him not want to run again. The news stories talked about some of the alleged damage, and Uncle Dave actually sides with Ventura here. The damage doesn't sound that bad, just some empty beer cans, a broken pool cue, and some tables were scuffed up. It doesn't sound like that wild of a party. A 22-year-old bringing his friends over to watch sports and drink some beer? Big whoop. Must have been a slow news week, I'm assuming. Neighbors near the mansion
Is that Dave, by the way, that said big whoop?
I said big whoop.
I was like, wait, am I going to agree with this? I'm like, yeah, who gives a damn?
Yeah,
come over to drink beer and watch sports, and they're all over 21. Okay, I see no problem.
Oh no, they broke a pool cue, and the cleaning crews have to clean up after.
My local arcade one day by accident.
Yeah, right. Well, and another thing is like, oh no, the cleaning crew's complaining because they had to do their job. Ooh, like good. Yeah. Even the neighbors near the mansion have said that there's not been any issues with noise or disturbances either. So even the neighbors don't give a crap, and normally they're the first ones to raise a fuss.
I mean, it was a smear campaign because he was a pro wrestler. Don't forget that part.
Of course. Just how many times have we went after the media already on this podcast? It's just another example.
Gotta sell newspaper, dude.
Oh, yeah. Well, nowadays, nobody sells newspapers. So, and if you still buy a if you're still one of those people out there that buys a newspaper, I'm assuming you're over the age of 60. So good for you. And thanks for listening. Please subscribe.
Gotta get that demographic.
Yeah, right. Hey,
we should get our mom to listen.
Right. Good Lord. Hey, the only thing I've bought newspaper for in the last 5 years has been packing material when I'm moving, because you can get a big thing. You can get a big thing of it for $1. This is a story I was texting you about last night, actually. Major League Wrestling had its debut show at the old ECW arena, and the MLW Championship was won by Shane Douglas. I was today years old when I found that out. But they did an angle where they basically tried to recreate the famous Shane Douglas NWA title incident, because of course they did, where Shane was going to throw down the belt, but they did an angle where he's... this is just a belt. But they did an angle where he was told that he'd be fined and suspended for life from wrestling if he didn't defend the belt.
He can work at Target, fine.
The angle didn't get over at all, and most people hated it, and it led to pretty mediocre reviews for the show overall. Bam Bam Bigelow was supposed to work the show, but he arrived, and he found out that they wanted him to do the job to All Japan Pro Wrestling wrestler Taio Kea. I think I'm pronouncing that name right. I don't know. In the first round match of the title tournament, Bam Bam said, "Screw that," and bounced. Steve Corino also managed to get an F. Paul Heyman chant started in the ECW arena, nonetheless, which is an interesting note. Well, yeah, I think they all kind of started hating him when he showed up on WWF TV before ECW even shut the doors.
That's right. Yep.
Not that I'm blaming him for that. I'm just saying to them, it was a slap in the face, which I can see. Then again, running the show that he would consistently run was a slap in my face. So I don't know. No, nothing.
No.
Speaking of ECW, the Sandman will be doing a celebrity boxing match in Philadelphia soon going against Tony Luke. No, this is not Tony Mamaluke.
Sign my ass up.
Right. This is not Tony Mamaluke, who would use the name Tony Luke in TNA years later. This is Tony Luke.
How you doing?
He owns a bunch of sandwich shops in the area and is known as the king. He's known as the king of sandwiches in Philadelphia. That's a hell of a title, man. You hold that with pride. I'd get T-shirts made,
especially in Philly.
All I can think of when I read this story, all I could think of was that commercial, or those commercials with what was his name, Garrett, something from Everybody Loves Raymond for Jimmy John's. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Brad Garrett.
Brad Garrett, yeah, where he's Tony Baloney or whatever his name is. He's like, I'm known as the king of sandwiches around these parts.
Tony Baloney, I'm done.
It's Jimmy's John's again. Good grief. I would laugh if that's what Tony Luke actually looked like. And here's another one. A lot of big news around this time, man. At the TNA debut show, Ken Shamrock is expected to win the NWA title in a Battle Royal gimmick. If he doesn't, it's because there's a last-minute change, but as of now, it's absolutely going to be Shamrock. And wouldn't you know who
did
won the
Dave
title?
say this?
Yes.
So he actually prefaced it with, if he doesn't win, it's because there's a change. So he actually prefaced it all with
hashtag changed. Right.
Oh.
Well, you got to.
That's a new one for me from him.
Yeah.
He starts out with that.
He's preempting his wrongness. But he was right. Shamrock did win the title and went on to be the NWA champion and all that. So I did not like his NWA or his TNA theme, by the way. I thought it was kind of weird.
Yeah, WWE theme was awesome though. So.
Oh, that was as the kids say, a banger.
It's not like the third time we've done this week.
You know. Everybody would have to see our text conversations, or maybe not. But but yeah, he actually came back to TNA a couple of years ago and had a feud with Sami Callihan. That was not something I had on my bingo card for this century.
Or this millennium, but yeah.
Yeah, right. Good news for TNA, as the company reached an agreement with Dish Network, which adds another 7 to 8 million potential homes to their exposure. The only pay-per-view provider in the U.S. to not carry them now is Cablevision. I have no idea what Cablevision is.
What the hell's Cablevision?
That's what I had no effing
I have
clue.
Spectravision.
Good Lord. Dish Network is obviously one of the big ones, so you got to land that one quick. And I'm not being sarcastic either. So yeah, they had weekly pay-per-views for a while. When was it they actually got the show on FSN? Was
2004.
Okay, so they did like almost 2 years worth. Yeah, it was about 2 years worth.
Hold on now. They did it even on FS1, if you remember. They were still on Wednesday Night pay-per-view. They didn't just end it. They stayed on it for another year. So I'm pretty sure they ended it.
Yeah, I think I remember. Yeah, that's right. Because I think I remember them advertising that during Impact. They were like, buy the pay-per-views every week.
They would always say Impact or TNA returns to Wednesday Night pay-per-view this Wednesday. And it always made me laugh when you said returns to it as if they were gone forever. You were literally off,
bro,
for 6 days.
I know. That's why it was that thing, like I laughed at when WWE would have those advertisements for matches, and they're like, so-and-so, these two people rekindle their feud. And it's like, you mean the one that ended 2 weeks ago? Like, hell of a rekindling. The TNA Cruiserweight title has been renamed the X title. The idea is that it's not necessarily going to be limited to just small guys and will act as more of a secondary title to the NWA belt, with not exclusively a Cruiserweight thing.
And you can just close your eyes and picture Eric Bischoff's head busting.
What does it mean? I loved his rants about it.
Do you remember that scene you've seen Anger Management, right? With Adam Sandler and Jack Nicholson? Do you remember that scene when he's like, who are you? Well, I work at a firm. No, not what you do. Who are you? Oh, I'm an easy, laid back guy. No, now you're telling us about your personality. I want to know who you are. Like, that's him with the extra. What is it? It's about no limits. Yeah, but what happens in it? Oh, there's no limit. What the hell is it?
Yeah, okay, well, what are the limits to begin with? if there's no limits, like with the hardcore title, you could explain that. You're like, well, there are no rules in the matches, like normal, whatever.
It's a cluster it's like F and all over the place.
Garbage everywhere. Yeah, garbage everywhere. You can pin your opponent at any place.
We joke, but it's true. That had a purpose.
Right. This one saying there are no limits. Okay, so it's a hardcore title. No. There are rules in the matches. Okay, then what are the limits that they're breaking? I don't get it.
It's the limit of gravity because they can fly through the air.
Yeah, right.
I never thought of it like that until Bischoff's podcast. It kind of changed my whole outlook on it.
Yeah.
Same thing with Conrad. Did the same thing to Hulk Hogan for me now. Every time I watch a match back, and I forgot to mention this on our bonus show, by the way. In that match Hogan had with Bob, he was like whipping him stuff and throwing him in the pole. I'm like, this is the face? That's the Conrad.
Yep. It's true, man. You never before or since saw that. People could argue Steve Austin did that, but Steve Austin was not technically a babyface. He was like an anti-hero kind of guy that people just happened to cheer. So
yeah, he was probably the worst heel of all time, personally, I think. Yeah, because he couldn't get over his heel, so that's the worst heel ever.
Yeah, right.
Like, wait, the guy drinking beer and flipping off the boss, he's the bad guy, but the elderly man that's trying to run his company, he's the bad one? What?
Yeah, right. The guy who's looking out for the safety and well-being of his employees, like, yeah, screw him. I'll never get over that one either. This one, God, didn't last long, but we talked about him last week too. Disco Inferno turned a job offer down to join TNA because they wanted him to change his name to Ad Man and have a gimmick where people would draw or print ads all over his body like they do in boxing sometimes.
He sounds perfect for that.
Yeah. The idea would that he would be covered in ads every week, and then he would lose a match, and a sponsor would drop out, and eventually he'd have no sponsors left because he kept losing. Gee, it's hard to see why he turned that gimmick down. This is so stupid.
Oh, God, just for the sake of my own brain, I hope that's real.
Yeah, right. When a guy whose gimmick was Disco Inferno tells you that gimmick is so stupid, I will not do it, you know you effed up.
The guy who came up with Bill Ding and the Aliens.
Right. Good grief, man.
He would be with TNA, though, within his first year, so something changed.
Right, yeah. Well, and if you notice, he pops up as just Glenn Gilberti.
I want to say like a couple of names in front of it at times, like Crazy Glenn or something.
I don't remember.
Whatever, but he challenged for the NWA title on pay-per-view, so he's got that in his belt.
Oh, God.
I believe he wrestled Jeff Jarrett.
God, I bet that one just tore the house down. The Blockbuster versus the Stroke. Or not the Blockbuster, the Chartbuster, excuse me.
I probably did as much money as that house show in like Mississippi Eric Bischoff talked about, where it was was that guy, the Bunkhouse Buck and Jimmy Graffiti.
Right. Yeah, they had a 60-minute Texas death match. It's just, man.
He said tore the house down. He gave him both a $250,000 bonus.
Too bad they never got it on camera. Yeah. God. This next one, speaking of people who would be in and out of TNA here, Ed Ferrara is involved in writing the TNA shows, along with Jeff Jarrett and Jared Jarrett. Well, Vince Russo is writing as well, even though that's still top secret. Jeff Jarrett was in the pits for the recent NASCAR Kroger 300 race with Termy Sadler, who is scheduled to be at TNA's debut show. Former ECW manager Sinister Minister will be a part of the company using his real name, James Mitchell. K-Crush, a.k.a.
James Mitchell.
Yeah, I ain't calling him that. K-Crush, a.k.a. Ron Killings or R-Truth, is expected to be one of the main heels in the promotion. I don't think he was a heel for long.
No, people went boom.
Yeah, and then he is a former NWA champion for anybody out there that doesn't know. Yeah, it's crazy to think about. Now he's like the 500-time 24/7 champion.
24/7, 14, 28, 7-Eleven, Highway 5 champion.
Yeah, European UK champion. Speaking of Russo, officially Vince Russo is still not involved in TNA, but he has submitted a bunch of ideas, many of which are expected to be implemented on the debut show.
I want to point out now, this is 2 times. Apparently he's, quote, not been involved, but was involved. anyone remembers about the whole Dixie getting thrown off Spike. This is twice this happened.
When you are such a pariah that they have to keep your employment hush-hush, maybe you shouldn't employ this guy. That's just a thought.
Not an expert, but yeah, I think you might be right.
However, officially, he's not part of the company. He's still got to have a quick cup of coffee in the WWE before they kick him to the curb again, at which point he'll finally decide to join TNA for real. This was the time that I had brought up to you earlier at a different podcast where Bruce Pritchard talked about it. He said they hired him in just to see, what. I don't think they officially hired him. I think they brought him in to see what he had. And first of the thing he said, he wanted to strip all the champions of their titles and have tournaments, bro. And then second, his question was, he was like, bro, has Triple H and Chris Jericho ever feuded, bro? And they're like, that was literally the main event of WrestleMania. He said, so it was extremely obvious from day one that he didn't watch the product. And WCW had been shut down for a year at this point. There are no excuses. No,
there is an excuse. There's something wrong with that man's head. That's a great excuse.
Well, yeah. But it's like, they always say before you start working somewhere, maybe research the company, find out a little bit about it, and then go in for your interview. Don't just go in and they're like, oh, what do you know about us? It's like,
USA, 9 o'clock, bro. Every Monday.
You employ people? That's what I know about you. Half naked
men
actually, roll around
fair, no. According to everybody, they don't employ anybody. It's opportunities.
Oh, well, yeah.
That's what Christian says.
What do you know about the WWE? Half naked men roll around and sweat all over each other in the ring? God dang it, pal. He's got it. Speaking of a promotion that is going downhill, though, the WWA promotion is in big trouble. They have a show scheduled for Ireland soon, and ticket sales for that show are pretty decent. However, every other show on the books looks to be dying. They have 3 shows scheduled for Germany next month, and all 3 shows have less than 500 tickets sold each. The German promoters are wanting to cancel the tour, but WWA promoter Andrew McManus has a contract that will result in a lot of financial penalties for him if the shows are canceled, so he's fighting for it. Lex Luger is booked for the tour, which would be his first time wrestling since WCW went down. They're also still promoting names like Jeff Jarrett and other TNA contracted talent. However, with their new plan of running live every week, it's going to be hard for any of them to get overseas, work the tour, and still do the TNA tapings. Yeah, they died very shortly after this. I don't know exactly when. But
isn't this the famous company where Lex Luger had that brawl with the shirt in his promo?
It might have been. I don't remember. He had some hilarious moments. There was one. This might have been the company, maybe the same promo where they said where he's like, "I'm gonna be wrestling it," and he looks at the guy and they're like, "Super Sunday." And he's like, "Super Sunday?" He looks all confused.
It's like, was he talking about oh wait, that's the show I'm on, or it's called that?
Yeah, he's like, "Yeah, we're live, pal."
All the above.
Good Lord. Another show, another dead promotion here, man. XWF is making one last grasp to survive, even though they've been saying this for almost a year now. The promotion is claiming once again to be very close to getting a TV deal. If it goes through, the plan is to hold a press conference to announce it and then tape 5 weeks of TV to air in September and October, with plans to air a pay-per-view sometime in late October. However, this seems pretty folly since they lost all of their top stars like Hulk Hogan, Kurt Hennig, and Jerry Lawler, all of whom were involved at the beginning but have all since returned to WWE, though Hennig has since been fired by WWE again, so he's technically available. Even if
how in 2002 those 3 names are huge stars.
I know, right? Even if this miraculously happens, most of the marketable names left out there have already signed short-term deals with TNA that would last through October, so they wouldn't be available either. So XWF will be struggling to fill a roster with names anyone even cares about. Obviously, this never happens.
It's a shame, because that could have been something.
Yeah, right. I saw Brian Zane on, if anybody looks up Wrestling with Regret, Triple W
Big Kick City,
on YouTube.
Bro.
Oh, yeah. Close personal friend of Greg's, of course. He on his channel.
Podcast, though. I'm not mad at it. I've asked him twice.
Yeah, he said he doesn't do podcasts, but I don't know. He did Keep It at 100, and they crapped all over him like he was a mark. But that's
I think that's probably why I didn't want to do it. I'm actually liking him. He's genuinely a cool guy.
Yeah, he seems cool. I shook his hand at WrestleCon 2018. He seems cool.
You see him in every single APW show.
Right.
He's a cool dude.
And he's the illegitimate son of Jim Cornette. Wink, wink.
I didn't like him anymore. He blocked him.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, they had a falling out, as does Jim Cornette with literally everyone on the planet. Except the great Brian Last.
And Brian.
Yeah. Last couple stories I have here are MMA related. This first one, UFC will make its TV debut as part of a 30-minute segment on Fox Sports' The Best Damn Sports Show, period. It will be hosted by Fear Factor host Joe Rogan, who is a huge UFC fan and has a lot of martial arts experience himself. I like how at this time they're referring to Joe Rogan as, he hosted Fear Factor. You remember that guy?
Fear is not a factor for you.
20 years late, fast forward 20 years, he hosts the biggest podcast in the world, like him or hate him, and he's been doing UFC since 2002. So there you go. But the idea is to show one full fight in its entirety, which will be Robbie Lawler versus Steve Berger, with highlights of other fights to fill out the rest of the time. Uncle Dave criticized them for not putting on Chuck Liddell versus Vitor Belfort on the show, or at least airing highlights of it. Obviously, that's a strong pay-per-view draw, and that's where the money is. But you only get one chance to make a good impression, and Uncle Dave thinks that it would be in UFC's best interest to give TV viewers a taste of their best foot forward and try to get somebody like Liddell over as a new large audience, or with a new large audience.
Okay, my first thing I'm going to say is 2022, Robbie Lawler is about to fight in July in the UFC. And he's still nuts, pretty damn good. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Do you know who Steve Berger is? I don't recognize that name.
Don't.
Okay.
Don't.
Yeah. If anybody out there knows if we should know, please, let us know. I have no idea. Greg's a big UFC fan. I watch here and there. But yeah, I get wanting to put, Liddell was obviously very marketable. He's still.
Well, he wasn't the Iceman yet. I mean, he wasn't like the dominant champion yet, to my knowledge. I don't think.
Yeah.
Obviously they knew he was going to be, and they were completely right. But
yeah. Well, him and Belfort, I'm sure, was a good fight. Dave thinks that's a much more marketable fight than Lawler versus Berger. Hard to disagree.
This is when Vitor was the 19-year-old phenom, I think.
Yeah, right. So, I can see Dave's point. However, 20 years later, they're doing just fine.
They're doing their best business ever, apparently.
Yeah, wow, nuts. The last story I have here is your favorite fighter and mine, Greg. The Bob Sapp fight in K1.
Oh, good Lord.
That was talked about
last week. I can't believe you called him a fighter, by the way.
In the most technical version of it, yeah, he is technically a fighter.
Look at my notes.
The Bob Sapp in K1 that was talked about last week, in which Sapp basically mauled his opponent in such a way that he got disqualified, was at least partially a work. Had it not been, Sapp would have been immediately fired and not given a rematch with the same opponent 6 weeks later. There's a pretty good chance that his opponent didn't know that the people who ran in to separate them after the fight didn't know either. But Uncle Dave seems pretty confident that Sapp was instructed by someone higher up in K1 to do what he did. Do you know about any of this? I don't think you kept up with K1.
I don't.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't keep up with it. Was K1 MMA or was that kickboxing?
It was like a hybrid, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know anything about this. Bob Sapp never really did anything in fighting that was like massively great. According to you, he sucked.
He did better stuff in wrestling, and I don't even know what that's saying.
Yeah, right.
I loved him in The Longest Yard. I thought he was great in that.
Yeah, he's a pretty good actor. He's been in a couple of movies. I mean, he's not like, going to be winning awards, whatever. He's comedy relief, but still. He's big and intimidating.
Every movie needs something like that anyway. So, someone's got to fill the role. So.
Right. Well, like when Great Khali is in a movie, he's there literally to look big and scary.
Also in the same movie with Bob Sapp.
Right. And he's also there to make you laugh on occasion. I mean, all he had to say with his giant voice was, "Oh, my balls," and everybody laughs. There you go. But anyway, that does it for the news and notes. Time to get into the event itself. This one was actually a good one. And to celebrate, 2 years, I figured, we're going to go a little long on this one. It's all good. But we're going to dive into the event itself on the other end of this break right after this. Follow the Main Event Marks at facebook.com/Main Event Marks Pod, on Twitter at Main Event _Marks, and on Instagram at Main Event _Marks and at Main Event Collector.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan McCarthy, and I'm the host of the No Credentials Required podcast. Start your work week with the Monday Drop-In, where I talk about the sports beat in the Capital District, also known as the Mighty 518, as well as Metro New York sports from an upstate point of view. I also give a life lesson from a weekly sports story, so you might learn something from that. I also have a midweek podcast where I interview different sports personalities and talk about a wide array of topics. Take a listen and subscribe on your preferred podcast app, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Also check out our social media channels on Twitter and Instagram, BellyUpNCR, and Facebook.com/BellyUpSportsNCR. We're a part of the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network in association with Godzilla Media. No credentials required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports.
Event marks are available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Find all of our links on our link tree at linktr.ee/main event marks. And we are back. We're back. It's time to dive into WWE King of the Ring 2002. Took place on June 23rd, 2002. A theme song was Ride of Your Life by Neurotica. You remember that on, was it Forcible Entry?
Yeah.
Yeah, they put a handful of the theme songs on there. The venue is a nationwide arena in Columbus, Ohio, as mentioned earlier, with an attendance of 14,198, and the pay-per-view buy rate was 0.82.
That's kind of crazy. They were at Oakland for Raw the week before, so they went all the way across the country for this. They didn't really
I know.
put their events close together.
Like California, Ohio. Makes sense. I got it. Okay. Yeah, so they talked about that crazy stuff in like the 80s, but I didn't think they did that quite so much around this time. I'm sure the wrestlers just love that, going, it's a 3-hour time difference. For people that have never traveled like that, that messes you up, man.
It does. I recently did it. I did it recently.
Yeah, and it's like you're thrown off for at least 24 hours. So, but anyway, this one amounted to 320,000 buys, which was pretty good. King of the Ring was one of the big ones at the time, so they usually did pretty good numbers. But we open up with recap footage of all the King of the Rings of the past leading up to this one. And the opening match is a King of the Ring tournament match between Chris Jericho and Rob Van Dam in about 14 and a half minutes. Jericho uses a bunch of dirty tactics in this one. In the end, both men get on the top rope, but Jericho slips and gets crotched, flopping into the ring. RVD then hits the 5-star frog splash for the win. Uncle Dave gave this 3 3/4 stars. My God, I gave it an even 3. What say you?
I gave it an even 4. I love this. What shaves off that quarter?
I know. It's like, well, his Chris Jericho being a Canadian naturally shaves off a 1/4 star. I don't freaking know.
Or RVD doing weed.
Yeah, I always hate that when it's like 3/4 star. It was almost there. Like, okay.
Please, Uncle Dave, show us your amazing matches that are 5 stars. So let's see how this works.
In the Tokyo Dome, by the way. Gotta say that. But
I love how whenever Pritchard mocks that, pisses Conrad out. Oh, God. Like, is it not true?
Yeah, right. And I was like, please tell us that it's not true. Please. Anyway, after the match, Jerry the King Lawler gets in the ring to interview Rob Van Dam. King asks RVD if he would rather face Test or Brock Lesnar in the finals. RVD says that he doesn't care if it's Test, Brock, or Godzilla. No one is going to stop the King of the Ring from being Rob Van Dam. And then Chris Jericho jumps him from behind, locks in the walls of Jericho, and shouts, "I'm the king of the world! I'm the king of the world!"
Yeah, Titanic has been out of theaters for like 5 years at this point.
I know. He was a big fan. Okay. He every time you say James Cameron, it doesn't matter if it's a chick flick or whatever, he'll be right on it, man. He'll be front row for the new Avatar movie. Like, oh boy, I'm not putting down the movie, but right. Anyway. But Jericho even a bunch of referees break this up. Jericho forearms one of them in the face. I was like, damn, dude. But backstage, Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar are watching the monitor. Paul Heyman hypes Brock up, saying that...
I love the Paul Heyman part when he acts like Godzilla.
Yeah, right. I'm like, what the hell are you doing, Paul? Like, are you okay?
No.
Anyway, of course he's not. But anyway, Paul Heyman hypes Brock up, saying that people still think he's King Kong or Godzilla, but they don't get it. Brock is real, and tonight he becomes the king of the ring. And there we go. We get this up next. It is Test versus Brock Lesnar with Paul Heyman in his corner in another King of the Ring tournament match. Tournament Pro. It goes for 8 minutes, 18 seconds. These were like two bulls locking horns. They just beat the piss out of each other. Test actually gets a near fall off a pump handle slam. He then connects with a running big boot for another near fall. Tries for a second big boot, but Heyman smacks him in the back to distract him, and Test oversells it like he got a chair to the back or something. But then Brock hits an F5 on him for the pinfall win. Uncle Dave only gave this a half a star, but considering who is in it, I gave it like 2.5, 3 stars. What say you?
I gave it 3. I thought it was really great. What the hell was he watching?
I know. I'm like a half a star. I was into this match. I didn't think I would be. I wasn't the biggest Test fan in the world. Man, these guys just beat the crap out of each other. I'm like, hell yeah, man. I don't get it. This is weird. He crapped on a few things on the show that I was like, what the hell are you watching, man?
Well, to be fair, building up to this, we heard him say it. What do you say? The wheels were off.
Yeah, the wheels were falling off the train. Yeah, they're going down. Yeah, good lord. But we now go backstage with Jonathan Coachman asking Raw wrestlers which one of the 2 Raw superstars that advanced in the tournament are going to win. Bubba Ray Dudley gets stopped first and goes on some tangent about how happy he is to see 2 Raw superstars there, but he doesn't see RVD beating Brock Lesnar. He then says that he's going to bounce back from his recent slump and make an impact here. We now switch to some blonde guy who they don't name. Do you know who the hell this guy was?
Mark Lloyd.
Who?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, the blonde guy is who we don't know is standing outside of the SmackDown locker room. A frustrated.
His name's Mark Lloyd, by the way. I'm not joking. That's
Mark Lloyd. Oh, Mark Lloyd. Okay.
Oh, I thought you were just joking. You didn't hear me.
Oh well,
his name was Mark Lloyd.
Yeah. Okay. Well, a frustrated-looking Lance Storm and Christian bust out of the locker room and are asked about their thoughts on RVD versus Brock Lesnar. Lance Storm says that it was supposed to be Chris Jericho versus Test for an all-Canadian final. Christian says that WWE is prejudiced against Canadians and the entire world hates America. Okay, I gotta stop right there real quick. He said that it was supposed to be an all-Canadian final, but it's 2 Americans because WWE is racist. I'm like, so you mean to tell me that the 2 Canadians lost their matches due to racism?
Man.
Also on that point, is Canadian a race? I thought it was a nationality.
I don't know. I go back to what we've been talking about on this podcast from day one. Like, in America, maybe in the world, but specifically America, no black jokes, Mexican jokes, Asian jokes, homophobic jokes. But Canadians, it's wide open. Go ahead. Hey, open season on them. Go. Well, why? Yeah. Since why is that okay?
Well, and on top of all that, I just got to say, don't blame Canada. Blame yourself.
Right.
But Lance Storm,
Lance Storm says, blame Canada. Blame Canada.
Of course. I wonder if that was I wonder if him saying that was in response to Trey Parker and Matt Stone. Lance Storm says that
they were still young at that time too. Think about that.
Yeah, right. It's crazy.
4 years, I think.
But Lance Storm says that they need to carry the flag of civility and peace before walking off. I assume that's the Canadian flag.
You mean the one with the leaf on there that RVD would smoke?
Yeah, right. Jim Gaffigan made a joke about that. He was like, everybody else, their flag is representative of something strong or the national religion or a big battle or whatever. Canada's like, put a leaf on it.
Hell yeah.
Like, are you sure? Just a leaf? Yeah, we got a lot of maple leaves up here. Put that on it. Okay. But back at ringside, JR and King send us to Michael Cole and Taz. Cole is stick thin at this point and looks like a youth pastor.
His hair.
Tell me I'm wrong
about that hair. Oh, God, He looks like he wants to tell me the good news, but his hair.
He's like, "Hey guys, we're gonna learn about Jesus, but let me break out my acoustic guitar first."
It's like Van Dreesen on Beavis and Butthead.
Oh man.
Okay. My name's Michael Cole. Okay.
What the F? But we go up now to this match. It is the Hurricane defending the Cruiserweight title against Jamie Noble with Nydia. This one went about 11 and a half minutes long.
All the way live.
You ain't kidding. This storyline with Hurricane and Nydia was incredibly ridiculous, in my opinion, especially when you hear Michael Cole and Taz running it down for us.
Yep.
The whole deal, for anybody that doesn't know, is the storyline was that Nydia was the girlfriend of Hurricane years ago, but he dumped her, and now she's vengeful, and her new boyfriend is going to beat him up. And her new boyfriend's Jamie Noble.
So she lost the comic nerd for the trailer hick.
Yeah, right. I did like that his finishing submission was called the trailer hitch. I thought it was funny. But Hurricane has Noble beat, but Nydia gets on the apron to distract the referee. Hurricane confronts her and then moves just in time for Noble to run in and blast her, and she falls off the apron. Later, Noble crotches Hurricane on the top rope. He powerbombs Hurricane, and then Nydia knocks Hurricane's boot off the rope. This leads to Noble getting the 3-count win. Uncle Dave and I both gave it 2.5 stars. What say you?
I gave it 2. It was decent.
Yeah, it wasn't amazing. And you could tell that they just got that new Cruiserweight title, too, because the pre-match graphic was still the WCW Cruiserweight title with the WWE logo over it. Because I was like, when they showed that graphic, I was like, wait a minute, is Hurricane still wearing the old? And I was like, nope, that's the new one. So switch must have been really recent. We now see footage from Sunday Night Heat where The Rock entered the building. Now we go to Terry Runnels standing by with Eddie Guerrero, who's getting awfully touchy with her. She sends it to footage from Raw where Chris Benoit says that he blames Ric Flair for ruining his life. Ric Flair punches Benoit, and both Benoit and Guerrero jump Flair, beating him down. Terry asks Eddie, now back at the show here, if he's worried about facing an angry Ric Flair, and Eddie goes off saying hola to all of his family members. This was kind of funny because he completely ignores the question. And he's like, I want to give a shout out to all my brothers, Hector, Mando, Chavo, and he's like, and all my cousins, Chewy, and oh my God.
Never mind Tavito Jr.
Yeah, right. I want to say hi to little Timmy. He's this kid that we just adopted a week ago, man. Holy crap.
Okay, I'm so glad you said adopted. Like, there's no Mexican named Timmy, okay? I guarantee you. But
yeah, I know when you said little Timmy, I was like, what the hell?
Little Timmy, our gringo nephew.
Yeah, right. He's a little special, all right? But anyway, he then mocks Flair and says that he's not worried because Flair is loco and Eddie is in the best shape of his life. He's not lying, by the way. He is in phenomenal shape here. He says that he's going to put...
This was when he left after his, I think it was his last ever drug bender, and came back. And
this was when he came back? Oh, yeah, that does make sense.
He just returned at Backlash, I believe. And Benoit came back a couple weeks prior, so they both came at the same time.
And Malenko and Saturn are gone, aren't they?
At least not wrestling, but I know.
Well, yeah. I don't think Malenko ever left until, last couple of years. But anyway, Guerrero says that he's going to put Flair in the retirement home tonight. And that leads us to this. It is the Nature Boy Ric Flair versus Eddie Guerrero in 17 minutes. I believe that the theme for Ric Flair is dubbed here.
Yep.
Because
this is when they lost the rights to it for a minute.
Oh, so they dubbed over the Master?
Yeah, because he's still used on the show, but they lost the rights.
Yeah.
I believe they lost the rights to this, the Hardy Boys, and something else. Booker T.
Oh, what? Booker T,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, some random ass ones, yeah. If anybody ever played that game, Crush Hour, yeah, those were all dubbed over on there. One of the old SmackDown games on PS2, the Hardy Boys had the dubbed version of their current song.
Wow. Yeah, this one, I had thought maybe Flair owned the rights to his theme, and they just had a falling out recently, so that was my guess. So I did not know that. Thanks for clearing that up. What they dub his theme over with here, for anybody that doesn't know, is the theme he used during his first run in the WWF. But to the actual match here, Flair manages to get a little busted open at one point in this one because, of course, he does.
Just a little, huh?
Yeah, he didn't bleed a gusher here, which was actually the real surprise. This one was pretty slow and plotting. Benoit comes down to the ring at one point. When the ref gets held back by Eddie Guerrero at one point, Benoit pulls Flair out of the ring and locks in a crippler crossface. The ref finally slides out. once the hold is broken and kicks Benoit out of the arena. While the argument's going on, however, Bubba Ray Dudley slides in behind Guerrero and hits a Bubba Bomb on him before Chris Benoit chases him off through the crowd. Flair now slides into the ring and pins Eddie Guerrero for the 3 count. Uncle Dave and I both gave this 2.5 stars. I was honestly expecting a banger, and this was not it. What say you?
I gave it 2. It was, could have been a lot better. Should have been a lot better.
It's Eddie Guerrero and Ric Flair. How is this not at least 3 to 4 stars? I just... I don't know, man. It's mind-boggling.
If I remember correctly, I'm like, why is Bubba Ray involved? There might have been something happened on Raw or something, but...
Well, he just said something about... he just said something about making an impact.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is just random.
Yeah, I know, right? But either way, after this, we now go to a commercial for getting the F out of WWF. We then get to...
These were terrible, by the way.
Yeah, it was really stupid. But we then get a view of the World in Times Square, which, for all of you that don't know, was a restaurant nightclub thing they had. That it used to be WWF New York, but they changed it to the World because they thought that it would be more inviting to non-wrestling fans. Spoiler: it was not.
We went into it as the Hard Rock Cafe.
Yeah, right. We see William Regal and Christopher Nowinski sitting at a table. They mock their waitress for going to community college and not Harvard, so she runs her finger through Nowinski's food while he isn't looking. Oh, man. And we then go to this. It's Trish Stratus defending the WWE Women's Championship against Molly Holly in 5 minutes, 41 seconds. The storyline around Molly is
that's all they're worth, apparently.
Yeah, right. The storyline around Molly is that she's got a large backside, and King keeps calling her a fat ass.
Yeah.
Stuff that wouldn't fly in 2022 and shouldn't have flown back then. Like, really? Was she fat? Like, get real. And even if she was, for God's sake. In the end, Trish rolls Molly up in an O'Connor roll. Molly rolls through and grabs the tights for the win. Uncle Dave gave this 1 3/4. I gave it 2 stars even. What say you?
3/4. So stupid.
Dumb, dude.
I hated it. I gave it 1.
Yeah.
Way too damn short.
Yeah, you don't say. This frickin' sucked, dude. I mean, the match didn't suck. It sucked that they gave it less time. You know, I feel like, I don't know, this is 2 of the better women's wrestlers on the roster. Trish was finally starting to break out into a decent wrestler. Molly was always good, so I don't know. That same blonde guy from earlier, which you said was Mark
Lloyd. Jeez,
okay,
you're right. That's
lest I forget.
Promo with The Rock with him.
No,
he's like, hey, oh damn, coach, you shrink and got white.
What the hell, man?
No, it's me, Mark Lloyd. Wait, Mark Lloyd? The Mark Lloyd is actually talking to The Rock.
Good Lord.
I feel like this promo, people. It's great. It's fantastic.
I've got to see that. I vaguely remember this fool, but he must not have been there for very long.
He wasn't. No, he wasn't.
Well, either way, he's now backstage again, interviewing Kurt Angle. Since Kurt had his head shaved after losing a hair versus hair match to Edge a while back, he's now wearing a wig under wrestling headgear.
That's not a wig, okay? He told you, okay? He used some hair restoration stuff and just worked too well.
Yeah,
Jeez.
right. And now it just falls off from time to time. But he looks like Rick Steiner here, by the way.
Yeah, especially like in the early 80s, like with the hair.
When the interviewer says that he's going to, this is a battle of the real American heroes, Kurt Angle gets angry. He says Hulk Hogan is only a, quote, real American hero because that's what Vince McMahon told him to be. However, Angle trained and represented America in the Olympics. He's a real American hero. It's
hard to argue that.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's kind of hard to argue. He reminds us about what he did at the King of the Ring last year and says that he's going to make Hulk Hogan tap out tonight. And
the year before that, he won the King of the Ring. So
right,
it's funny he left that out.
Yeah, he won it 2 years ago. Last year, he freaking damn near murdered Shane McMahon live on air. So that was something.
Well, it's not like Shane didn't damn near murder him back.
Oh, well, yeah. Payback is a you-know-what, man. Then again, I can't put that all on Kurt either because Shane was calling for him to do that to him. But this one is Hollywood Hulk Hogan versus Kurt Angle in 12 minutes, 8 seconds. WWE didn't dub in Real American, which is what they usually do. but they had some rip-off instrumental version of Voodoo Child for Hogan. And it's funny because Hogan's still doing the Voodoo Child, like, mannerisms, whatever. Like, when he gets in the ring, he does the chop it down motion.
It's kind of funny, too, when they do it in Real American, it looks even worse.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of glad they did this. It's like, every time I see him coming out to Real American, I'm like, this looks stupid. But during the match, Hulk Hogan follows through with his promise and pulls Angle's wig off yet again. Angle acts like he's going to leave as Hogan dances around in Angle's headgear. Angle rushes back with a chair. Hogan dodges, and the chair bounces off the top rope to smack Angle in the face. Hogan goes for a leg drop, but Angle catches the leg and locks in an ankle lock. They roll around for a bit until Angle refuses to release the hold, and Hogan finally taps out. Uncle Dave only gave this 2 stars. I give it 2.5. It was fine. What say you?
I gave it 3. I really like this. Also, I think this is the first and only time Hogan's ever tapped out. I could be wrong on that. It's pretty historic.
You can count them on one hand, that's for sure.
I guess technically the Luger on Nitro 100. Coming up soon, by the way.
Yeah,
I don't know if he really tapped, though.
I don't know.
He lost one with Torture Rack, so, I mean, I guess it's however you want to look at it. But
yeah, he submitted in one way, shape, or form. Yeah, I don't know. I felt like something was just... I don't know. It just wasn't there for me. The match was fine. It was in no way a bad match. I don't know. But after the match, Angle puts his wig on and the headgear over it and celebrates again. We now go backstage to this.
I just love how he put it back on. Yeah. Right. By the way, he would lose it permanently, I believe, on the next SmackDown. So.
Yeah, that was so stupid. I mean, it was funny for a minute, but I'm like, all right, man, just let it go. And he was quickly becoming the wrestling machine here. But we now go backstage where Booker T is hiding his face as Goldust walks up wearing... I was being a smart ass. I said Goldust is wearing gold face here.
Good Lord.
But anyway, he's dressed like The Rock. He even has like a painted on eyebrow. And he does the finally line. Goldust and talks to Booker T like he's The Rock. And then the real Rock walks up behind Goldust and scares him. The Rock drops the real finally line and tells Goldust that he'll never be The Rock. I like when he's like, take my shirt off. And he's like, no, never mind. Don't take it off. He's like, you paid for that, right? But Booker T says that he doesn't have to worry about Goldust. He's got to worry about Booker T. Then Booker says that he respects The Rock stood up for WWE and told those who don't want to be there to get the F out. The Rock says that he meant it. And while he and Booker don't see eye to eye, they're both there for the WWE title. He calls Goldust a freak. And Booker
is a freak like me.
And he says that Booker T needs to lay the smackdown on the NWO's candy asses. If you've never seen this segment, you need to go out of your way, check it out. There's too much to describe here, but it's effing hilarious. It's just like when The Rock is like, quit with the deep breathing, quit with the stupid eyebrow and the black hair, and quit rubbing yourself. Just stop all of it. This was some good stuff, man. Classic. Good crap, pal. Oh yeah. And then we go from that. Hell yeah. We go from that to this. It is Brock Lesnar with Paul Heyman in his corner taking on Rob Van Dam for the 2002 WWE King of the Ring Finals. This one went 5 minutes, 42 seconds. This was a great big man versus smaller man match. Heyman gives RVD a hot shot at one point, and RVD ends up hitting him with a basement dropkick. Brock then hits Van Dam with an F5 for the win. Uncle Dave gave it 3/4 of a star. My God, I give it for being under 6 minutes. I gave it 2.5 for being average. What say you?
I gave it 2, and they have a better match the next month at Vengeance.
Yeah, I mean, I thought these two worked well together, and Brock Lesnar was already looking fantastic. So, yeah, I mean, it was great, but I don't know, freaking Dave, man, with some of his ratings, it's like, what are you even watching?
It's the Meltzer scale, dude.
Yeah, sorry, it's not a non-American with a name that nobody can pronounce, going against another person exactly like that in the Tokyo Dome. And I'm not crapping on Japanese wrestling. I love New Japan, but come on. Either way, there's not really any fanfare for Lesnar's win. He celebrates with Heyman for a minute, and then they leave. Oh yeah, by the way, he's King of the Ring. He gets a title shot at SummerSlam. All right, anyway, moving on.
Opportunity.
Oh, excuse me, yeah. But yeah, this like the year before with Edge, he even got a trophy. Brock just got like, good for you, pal. See you later. I mean, sure, he has a title match at SummerSlam, but still, like, it's just like, all right.
I just love that going into SummerSlam, there's like a myriad of opponents he could have faced. Undertaker, Triple H, Rock, Angle. And I believe Flair gets a shot at the title on Raw when Rock has it. So,
yeah. Oh, man. But Triple H is shown walking backstage before he runs into Shawn Michaels and Kevin Nash, who are mean mugging him. Shawn then smiles and hugs Triple H, and then Nash hugs him. I put 6, I meant X-Pac. And Big Show are there.
Oh, he's in the NWO, so technically he can be 6.
Yeah. Well, they are there, X-Pac and Big Show, to round out the NWO.
Good. Yeah, by the way, I mean, just looking at it, man, Big Show is so out of place.
Yeah, he looked weird. I'm like, it's like the Click and then Big Show. By the way, I had completely forgotten that shirt existed that Kevin Nash is wearing, where it was just the NWO logo, but it was just a 4. I'm like,
it was like for a minute.
Yeah, I'm like, that looks kind of dumb. But either way, as Triple H walks off, Nash tells him that if he needs him out there, throw up the 2 Sweet sign and they'll come help. Yeah. But then Paul Heyman comes out to join JR and King on the commentary before the main event, and that takes us to our next break. It is our second to last break here. On the other end of this, we're going to get into the main event for the undisputed title right after this. Follow the Main Event Marks at facebook.com/Main Event Marks Pod, on Twitter at Main Event _Marks, and on Instagram at Main Event _Marks and at Main Event Collector.
This message is brought to you by Belly Up Sports. No, just kidding. This is not an NWO promo. This is just me, Kyle Sullivan, aka Shaggy Von Doom, the host of Here in Puckburg on the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network. I have a hockey podcast where we talk about hockey fandom and the love of the game and where that leads you in this game we call life. Why am I on Main Event Marks telling you about this? Well, what if I told you I had one half of the world's greatest tag team, otherwise known as the Main Event Marks, the one and only Greg, Superfly Greg. He was on, and he was talking about his love of the game. So you might want to come over and check that episode out. And if you like what you hear, you can check out the rest of our incredible episodes with our incredible hockey community, from PHF athletes, ESPN personalities, fathers of NHL players, and a whole lot more. Come by, follow the show, give a like, give a subscribe, and it'd be great to have you here in Puckburg. But enough about me. Let's get back to what you're really here for, the Main Event Marks, because they are the cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
Main Event Marks are available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Find all of our links on our link tree at linktr.ee/Main Event Marks. And we're back. It is The Undertaker defending the WWE Undisputed title against Triple H in the main event here. It went
Man of three H's.
It went 23 minutes, 44 seconds. These two get plenty of time. At one point, referee Earl Hebner gets bumped, and then we get a double down. Paul Heyman has been trashing The Rock on commentary, so The Rock's music hits, and he comes down to chase Heyman off before taking his place on commentary. I will admit, that was an original reason, like a creative reason to get The Rock down there. So I'll give him that. He didn't just come out just because. When The Undertaker and Triple H fight outside the ring, Undertaker boots The Rock in the face. In the face! And he goes to hit Triple H with a chair, but The Rock stops him and punches the crap out of him. He goes to hit Taker with a chair, but Taker ducks, and Rock blasts Triple H before The Undertaker cremates The Rock. Triple H is busted open now. Taker hits the last ride on Triple H, and Nick Patrick slides in to make the 2 count. Undertaker gets angry and socks Patrick in the face, leading to The Rock coming in and unloading on The Undertaker before hitting a rock bottom and finally leaving. Triple H makes the cover, and Earl finally wakes up to make a 2 count. Hebner's still half dead, so when Triple H hits a pedigree, Earl can't make the count. So Triple H goes over and starts dragging him to where he's going to pin The Undertaker, and The Undertaker low blows Trips, rolls him up, grabs the tights, and wins the match. Uncle Dave gave this a half a star. I gave it 3. Let's say you.
I gave it 3 too. Like, seriously, I know we already said, what the hell was he watching?
Yeah, a half a star. I know there was a lot going on, but for God's sake, you've got to be effing blind. Or stupid, or a combo. Wow. Yeah, this wasn't the best match they could have had, but what the hell,
Definitely not the best match they did have.
No, yeah. I don't know. That ending, by the way.
Super angry this time, huh?
I guess so. He's just all butthurt about something. But either way, the ending there is one of the things I was talking about was kind of out of character for The Undertaker. I mean, you didn't see a whole lot of him low blowing and grabbing the tights when he was the dead man, so that was unique. But now after the match on the stage, The Rock is pissed. The Undertaker trash talks him from the ring, and The Rock rushes back to fight with him. The Rock hits a spinebuster into a people's elbow on The Undertaker before Triple H hits The Rock with a pedigree and yells at his down body for busting him open earlier. The Undertaker's up now, and he chokeslams Triple H before grabbing the Undisputed title and taking off. Real quick, what did you think of The Undertaker's theme at this time?
I liked it, but I liked it better when he got lyrics.
Oh, yeah, the You're Gonna Pay theme. Yeah, it was pretty sweet. I liked them both, but yeah, You're Gonna Pay was pretty awesome. It's usually what they dub over his like Roland and everything with.
I think they did that on the current 2K game. Right?
Yeah, right. It seems like kind of out of place, but I'm like, whatever.
At least that's an actual theme and then a dub theme. That's what I say.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that is actually a relief. But either way, that is the end of the show. We're going to go to break, our final break. When we come back, it is the final ratings, and then we're going to tell you what's coming up on the podcast for the rest of the month of June, right after this. Follow the Main Event Marks at facebook.com/Main Event Marks Pod, on Twitter at Main Event _Marks, and on Instagram at Main Event _Marks and at Main Event Collector.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. My name is Thomas, and what's your name?
I'm Alan. Oh, yeah. We're brothers.
That's right.
Yeah. Same mother and father.
Your room was...
Oh, we shared the room.
Shared a room?
We shared the room.
Thought I knew your face.
Yeah, we go way back, mate. Yeah.
We should do a podcast then.
We have.
We do a podcast?
We do a podcast.
What's it called?
The Broadcast. Yeah, that was planned.
Yeah, well.
What do we do?
Well, we cover all different things in the world of pop culture. We're talking about comic books, we're talking about professional wrestling, and we're talking about movies. Go back and watch classic retro wrestling events, the likes of WWE, WCW, and if you do like that, you can check us out on Apple iTunes, also on Podbean, Anchor, and on Podknife. Also check us out on Twitter at The Broadcast. That's BROKAST. Nearly stuffed up the ending.
No, it's all right. Good on you.
Yeah. Instagram also at The Broadcast Podcast.
Remember, we don't spell it with a C. We spell it with a K.
Salute, mate.
Take it easy.
Main Event Marks are available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Find all of our links on our link tree at linktr.ee/Main Event Marks. And we're back. Final time on the podcast here. The final ratings. Internet Movie Database gave this 6.8 out of 10. CageMatch.net gave it 4.81 out of 10. Everybody just hated this show, man.
I don't know why.
Yeah, I thought
it was great.
I gave it an 8.5 out of 10 for a B.
Right there with you. I think I give it a B+.
Yeah, it was. I don't know why.
Yeah, I wrote that.
I mean, if you're going,
I'm playing and reading notes the same time. Yeah, I give it a B+. I love this video.
Right. Yeah, and if you're rating exclusively based on Uncle Dave's ratings, then okay. But if you're actually watching the show and being objective, this was not a bad show. And I don't get all the hate. I genuinely don't.
I give him a lot of crap, but a lot of the shows we do, my opinion is not that different from his. This one we're polar opposite.
Yeah.
Completely polar opposite.
I know. I don't get this one. Like I said, I don't know why he hated it so freaking bad. It was not a horror. No, it wasn't one of them where it's like, oh man, that was one of the greatest shows, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, that's coming up.
One of the greatest nights in the history of our great sport. But no, I mean, it was still a good show. It was King of the Ring, which was always fun. But
matter of fact, I can't say from this pay-per-view to SummerSlam, there's 3 awesome shows.
Yeah, I thought 2002 was a great year for pay-per-view.
Unforgiven was kind of, No Mercy was pretty good. Survivor Series was awesome. Armageddon was great. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I don't know. It's odd, but it is what it is. But that wraps up our first June show, ladies and gents. It is a 20-year anniversary for King of the Ring and the last King of the Ring pay-per-view ever.
Second anniversary for us.
Yeah, right. And coming up next week on June 8th, we've got Beach Blast from WCW in the year 1992.
Yeah, I haven't watched that back already. I'm going to be very intrigued to see where Dave is on this one.
I wrote down most of the, because I always do like an outline and then I kind of fill stuff in as I go. And I got some notes of that. There's nothing like huge on the show that anybody should be like, oh my gosh. I
actually got to go back and look and make sure it was on pay-per-view.
It was.
That might give you an idea where I'm going with it. But
right?
This is a pay-per-view? Okay.
Yeah. The only thing about this that was kind of, quote unquote big league was, no disrespect to these guys, they were big stars at the time, but it was Ricky Steamboat versus Rick Rude for the WCW title. That was about it. Everything else was kind of, They had some talent, but nothing to make you jump out of your seat over, I don't think. But we will see next week. 1992 is an interesting year, I'll say. For June 15th, we're going back to the year 2007 in TNA as we cover Slammiversary for its 15-year anniversary.
We're coming up on 20 years of that company.
Freaking nuts,
That's
man!
Insane.
I know. It's still going after everything it's went through. It's still freaking going.
That's good. That's me.
Or
clearly, they never was fence. There's something to be said about that.
Yeah, or it was, it's been ordained by God to never die. It's one of them.
That's where Jesus is. He's in TNA or Impact.
Yeah, right. He's
I thought he was in jail. I thought because everyone finds him there. Okay.
Wow.
That's usually where he's found, isn't it?
Well, yeah. People usually say his name when they get a look at their first paycheck from Impact, but yeah.
Either his name or good God. Either way, religion's in there.
Yeah, right. The very next week will be our double main event week. It is WCW Great American Bash 1997 for June 22nd. The main event.
I gotta watch this one back, and I can't remember if it was good or not.
I haven't seen it back yet either. The main event is a Falls Count Anywhere match between DDP and the Macho Man Randy Savage. I'm assuming that one's going to be good.
Should be good.
Right. So everything else on the show, there's another death match between Benoit and Meng.
Okay, it's coming back to me. Yeah, this sucked.
Okay.
No,
97 was
not the show. That match.
Okay.
Not the show.
Oh, okay. 97 was usually pretty good. So, it's we'll go back and check it out. The bonus show dropping 2 days after that show is going to be the NWA Clash of the Champions 2 Miami Mayhem. And I've looked it up a million times. I keep forgetting. I know the main event is Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson defending the world tag titles. And Nikita Koloff takes on Al Perez on the show.
You can't go wrong with a main event like that. But
yeah, I mean, we'll see.
I did say that on the cheek. You can't see it, but I did.
But anyway, that does it, man. Thank you for joining me again.
Yeah. Yes.
I know we went long on this one, but I hope you all enjoyed it. There was a lot to get to. We had a lot of fun making this. I hope you had a lot of fun listening to it. We will see you all.
I had a lot of fun watching this.
Oh, I did too. Apparently Dave didn't, but but anyway, we will see you all next week as we dive into WCW Beach Blast 1992.